officers in one of our conference rooms. I wanted to introduce you to Officer Lindner here, badge number 221. She's one of our newer officers. So I'd like her to kind of explain a little bit about herself and what she does on a daily basis.
Alright, hi, I'm Officer Lindner. Like he said, badge number 221. I just got hired on April 15th a year ago, so I've been on just a little over a year. I graduated from UNK in May about a year ago also, and I ran track and cross country there, and I also studied criminal justice with a math minor and an accounting minor.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about what you do like on a normal day at work?
Yeah, so I am on road patrol, so I get assigned a section every day I come to work, and then I take calls for service that happen in that section, and then I also conduct traffic stops. So when I see traffic violations or vehicle defects, I stop those vehicles and conduct a traffic stop. And so those are my main two duties, is to do those two things.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the gear you're wearing?
Yeah, I have a lot of it, and I have actually less than some because I'm smaller in stature, so I cannot fit everything on me. I have my duty weapon, and then my magazines, 2 magazines for that. I have my flashlight for when it's dark. I'm going to night shift soon, so that's very helpful, especially on traffic stops and stuff. My taser, handcuffs are here, and then my baton is there, and then my radio, and then that connects all the way up here in my mic, so then I can click this and I can talk, or dispatch can talk to me and I can hear them. And then my camera records every time I get out on a traffic stop or talking to anybody in the public. I typically just have it recording for my safety and their safety. My pens, my handcuff key, and then my little notebook. So when I'm talking to everybody, I usually get all their information, their name, their date of birth, their address, and their phone number are the 4 things we typically get. And so I will write that down here just so that I can be sure I have that for our records, and we put that into the records every time. And then all my fobs. I got the fobs to go into different places that are locked so that we can easily get into them.
And is all of that heavy to carry?
I'm used to it now, but yes, to a person that does not carry it, it is. I mean, it definitely weighs on you, and probably some, like his is probably heavier than mine is because mine's smaller, but it takes a little bit to get used to, but once you wear it for a while, I mean, it becomes normal, becomes your normal thing. So, but yeah, it's not light, and especially if you're trying to run in it or something, it's added weight. It's not the same, that's for sure.
So you said you ran track at UNK. How has that helped you in your job now?
Well, track, I guess, with running, especially distance running, there's a lot of dedication to that, and that characteristic plays over into the job and being dedicated. Being in shape, I mean, you don't want to be out of shape in this job, especially if something were to happen where you have to chase somebody or something like that. It definitely helps to have that sort of background. Like if I were to chase somebody, I might not necessarily be catching them right away, but I know I can run further than they can due to the fact that I ran distance. So as long as I can keep them in my sight, I'm fairly confident that I can outrun them for a longer period of time at least. And that's definitely helped.
Have you been in any foot pursuits lately?
Yes, I was in my first foot pursuit a couple days ago on Monday or Tuesday. So.
And that subject was able to be caught and arrested safely, had felony warrants, and was able to be taken in custody. But it helps to be in shape. So when you do catch somebody, that you still have energy to effect the arrest and not be out of gas. So coming from an athletic background is very handy.
Is there any challenges that you have as a female officer?
I think that people don't always expect it. There's often times where I'll walk up to a call or I will answer the phone and they expect it to be a male, and sometimes they'll be like hello sir or something, and then they turn and they see me and they realize that I'm not. So it's very much more expected to have a male officer when you're on calls, it seems to be. And there's some people that are very excited that there is a female officer because we only have 4. And at the department, I think everybody's fairly supportive and everything, but outside, they don't always think that you can necessarily do the job sometimes, but then you do it and they understand. I mean, they see that, and then there are people that don't look at the gender at all.
Mhm.
So,
It's very valuable to have both females and males on shifts. Predominantly, there's more males per shift than females. Like, I believe we have 4 female officers, correct?
total.
So, but to have a female on a shift is very valuable because to have a female search another female
Mhm.
that's arrested is usually the standard. Also, sometimes kids that are scared, sometimes are more comfortable talking to a female, and sometimes female victims of assaults. Sometimes they're more comfortable talking to female officers. So, it's nice to have both male and female on a shift to make it more well-rounded, and it makes a better team for sure.
What is your favorite part of your job?
I like being out in the community. I like getting to see people and helping people have a better day than what they're having. It's nice to be able to communicate and have such a good community here to support us too. So I like being able to get out and talk to them and everything. And right now it's a little more difficult too, but I like that aspect in the community support and everything here.
So you're a newer officer. Do you have any goals or aspirations of what you'd like to do? Right now, you're a patrol officer. But
Yeah.
sometimes people work through different divisions as they go through their career. Do you have any goals or
I
trainings you'd like to attend?
would like to attend accident reconstruction training at some point because that will utilize my math background.
And can you explain what that is?
So when a traffic accident occurs, and typically it's more like fatality, death accidents or something like that, you have to be able to reconstruct and figure out who was possibly at fault, what happened during that accident, and it does involve math and everything, trying to reconstruct what speeds they're coming out, what angle they came at, and all of that. And then I also think at some point I would be interested in looking into being a canine officer. I think it's very cool to have that canine and be able to work with them and be able to see what they can do and learn things from them and them learn things from you. I think it's an awesome bond, and I've always loved dogs, so I'm interested in looking into those too at some point.
So if a kid's watching this and wants to become a police officer, what do you suggest they do?
Get involved, talk to the police department, come and talk to people. I mean, at a young age, you just keep seeing what you can do, but as you get older and you get into high school and stuff, you can ride along with the police officers and see their job from the front seat. It's a lot easier to understand what's going on when you're sitting there with them. That's definitely what my internship did. I was able to know that that's something I want to do, and I was able to sit right next to the officer and stand right next to the officer and see everything that they do on a daily